Hi, Saumya. Thank you for joining us today. And first of all, congratulations on securing All India Rank 55 in CLAT PG 2022 examination. How are you feeling?
Thank you so much, ma'am. I don't know what I'm feeling, but I cannot explain it in words, ma'am. Thank you so much for you. You have always guided us throughout the process, motivated us.
Yeah, see, I mean, of course, but I'm sure it's your hard work essentially which has paid off. And also congratulations on getting NLS, which was again obvious. Okay, so Saumya, please begin by telling us a little bit about yourself and your educational background.
Okay, ma'am. So I'm basically from Lucknow, and I have done my schooling from Lucknow Public School, Lucknow itself, and then for my graduation, I went to NLU Vizag. And I had zero plans for doing LLM. However, my parents, they pushed me that students like you should pursue further studies. So I joined Jurisedge, and here I am.
Right. A very wise decision indeed. If you are interested in academics, then of course LLM is the way to go. Right. Okay, so Saumya, this year's paper, let's talk about that for a bit because it was an interesting paper, right? So please tell us your views on this year's paper. Were you expecting these kind of questions, or basically what was your take after seeing this paper?
Ma'am, definitely not. The pattern which was set from it was moderate to difficult. For example, we have studied many questions on disability or on reservation. I was very shocked or surprised by seeing that there is not even a single question on that particular subject matter. And then it was more of a conceptual based question rather than static or even current based. So, for example, ma'am, we have read so many judgments, 200 and 250 judgments. And when I saw the paper, there were literally 2 to 3 judgments which were recent. So I was a little bit disheartened. And that's all, ma'am.
Right. But yeah, that's true that they didn't really ask questions from recent case laws, but the issues that they tested were around concepts. That is very true. Okay, Saumya. So what is your take with respect to the areas that have been tested? For example, constitutional law did not receive as much weightage as it generally gets. Right. So what was your response on seeing questions on, let's say, Juvenile Justice Act or Family Courts Act, which I don't think that many students were preparing for?
True, ma'am. So basically, when I read the question paper, so it was like JJ Act. I mean, the question said that I got the first it had JJ Act, then it has Family Courts Act question. So I was like, oh, what is this? I have not read about it, but later on when I read the question and then the passage, it's like, okay, I can do it. It's doable, and we were getting answers directly from the passage. And other sets of questions, like ma'am, we had current questions from Ukraine-Russia war. And so it was, unclosed, ma'am. Unclosed was, this thing was surprising to see because they directly asked certain article number, but it was okay, ma'am. It was moderately too difficult, but.
Right. Okay. So I think apart from Juvenile Justice Act and Family Courts Act, the other areas were something which were largely based on your concepts, right? So what was your take with respect to, let's say, the procedural laws that were asked? Because generally people put more focus on IPC rather than CRPC and evidence law, even when we talk about criminal law. So were you prepared for evidence law and CRPC questions like that?
Ma'am, definitely, ma'am. Last year in 2021, they asked a passage from bail. So I was like, definitely they are going to test us on CRPC or Indian Evidence Act. So basically the question that were asked from mental element or 1 or 2, so it was very basic questions. तो आप normally आप पढ़ के उसे कर सकते थे. For example, मैम कि reasonable doubt क्या होता है और preponderance of probability क्या था. So it was normal question which I expected कि मैम we have read so many judgments on criminal law also. So it was the criminal law portion was very easy for me because I've always interested in that. So I could do it very easily, ma'am.
Right. So this was a little surprising that they didn't test your knowledge of recent case laws. Like, for example, they did ask Gautam Navlakha, to be fair, like they did ask a recent case. But more or less, the idea was that if you're familiar with your concepts, then it doesn't really matter whether you read the judgment or not.
Yes,
Right. Okay. So with respect to procedural laws, you were very familiar with them. Now coming to, let's say, the contracts law, because contracts was very conceptual and the options were also a little confusing. So what was your strategy while dealing with contract law when you were preparing?
During preparation, ma'am, I only read the Bare Act and illustration, that all. And ma'am, during my undergrad course only, I read contracts very thoroughly. So I was, my concepts were clear. So on talking about the questions, ma'am, though it was a little confusing, but we could easily infer certain things from the passage, and that's how I maintained it, and I luckily marked the correct answer.
Right. No, I don't think that was luck. That is the outcome of having your concepts very clear. As you said that you read these subjects very clearly in your undergraduate course also. So this is something which comes only with like a repeated reading of the Bare Act, but that is when your concepts actually become very clear. Okay, so the other areas I've asked you about. Now I just want to know that how or like what was your strategy for jurisprudence, because jurisprudence is something which is consistently tested, like it will always be there. So with the change pattern, how do you think one should address, or like how should one prepare for jurisprudence particularly?
Ma'am, I have always loved jurisprudence. I am into philosophy and philosophical things. So, and then when I read the passage, I'm always inclined towards heartfuller debates. So I was like, okay, this is my genre, I can do it. And then, and talking specifically about how to read jurisprudence, so I have started with reading schools. I was very clear with the concept that what is law, how the authors or how the jurists have defined it, and then coming to nationality and everything. The teacher, the faculty that Jurisedge provided us, ma'am, उन्होंने हमारे कॉन्सेप्ट अच्छे से क्लियर किए थे. एंड मैम आई रिमेंबर द की समीक्षा मैम टोल्ड अस कि you should keep your source limited and revise it very often, and you should make short notes of the same. And that's how I prepared jurisprudence note in two weeks, and that too in 2 pages. So that's how I kept revising them, and I literally memorized each and every jurist and what they have said. So that's how mama I did it.
Right. But that's a very sound advice, Saumya, that one should keep their sources to the minimum and make sure that they revise that thoroughly. And I think that applies for all subjects, because the more sources that you refer to, the time that you'll be wasting on them, and there'll be a lot of confusion, of course.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is very true. Okay, so now coming to this year's pattern particularly. So because we have had CLAT on the change pattern since 2020. Right. So if you look at 2020's paper, it was largely from case laws, right? Like if you have not read them, you'll never be able to answer them. 2021, I think, was far more balanced, wherein they asked all kinds of questions, including recent cases. So how do you think one should go by in light of, very frequent changes in the pattern or the kind of questions? Like what is the best strategy to like navigate the whole syllabus without compromising any part of it?
Ma'am, first I would only advise you should be very thorough with your basics. Until and unless your basics are clear, you can never ever understand the judgments. So ma'am, first मैंने अपने basics सारे within 3 to 4 months I completed my basic thoroughly. I made proper notes of them, and I used to revise it very often. And after that, I started with the judgments. So I read almost 100 and 150 judgments were provided by Jurisedge only. And then I started reading Live Law, Daily Digest, Monthly Digest. So I read almost 200 to 250 and even beyond that judgments. I made short notes like 1-liner or 2-liner. And first, your basics should be clear and you should revise it often. And then coming to judgment, so that 1-liner thing that you advised us to make. So 15 days prior to my exam, I actually sat and made all the, I divided, like, for example, Article 12. Now, these are the recent cases on Article 12, and these are the landmark judgments. So I revised it very often. So it was like कि जो भी चीजें मैंने कॉपी में लिख रखी थी, तो वो उसकी इमेज मेरे दिमाग में बैठ गई थी. तो आई नो कि हाँ, अगर ये केस आएगा तो ये इस कॉन्सेप्ट से. So that was my strategy.
Right. Okay, so that's actually a very good advice. Now coming to some areas which nobody can actually prepare for. For example, CLAT has a very vast syllabus now, right? Like, and they're clearly not going to confine themselves only to the subjects that are mentioned. So how would you suggest somebody who's preparing for 2023 to go about subjects like, let's say, taxation or company law, which are very huge, but they still form part of the syllabus and they have been tested consistently? So how to go about them?
हम this year only when amalgamation and tax एक case आया था. So ma'am, 6 question ma'am, though I read the judgment, but my company law is not that strong. So I know कि मैं इसको attempt नहीं कर सकती. So दो question थे जो उसके answer directly passage से infer किया जा सकते थे. So I did that only. And मैं जो future aspirants को जो advice करना चाहूँगी मैं यही बोलूँगी कि आप बेसिक्स पढ़ लो, जो भी जैसे कंपनी लॉ के बेसिक्स तो आप थोड़े बहुत पढ़ ही लो. उसके बाद जो जजमेंट्स आएंगे, रीसेंट जजमेंट्स, आप एक बार उसको देख लेंगे, आप देख लो तो इट वुड सफाइस मैम. हार्डली अगर 6 क्वेश्चंस आ भी रहे हैं तो उसमें 1-2 तो आप डायरेक्टली पैसेज से कर लोगे, और अगर 3 नहीं भी आ रहे हैं तो आप कहीं ना जैसे बैलेंस आउट कर ही लोगे, बिकॉज कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है. जो आपकी स्ट्रेंथ है आप उस पर वर्क करो. अगर आपकी स्ट्रेंथ में आप मार्क्स स्कोर कर ले रहे हो, तो जो आपका वीक पॉइंट है अगर उसमें 3-4 नंबर नहीं भी आ रहे हैं तो इट हार्डली मैटर्स.
Right. It's a competitive exam after all. So anyway, you cannot attempt like all questions. So you can't even aspire to prepare for all of them, because there are very bulky subjects like labor law, taxation. Like these subjects cannot be prepared for an exam like CLAT when you have like 12 other subjects that you need to pay attention to. So that is very correct advice. Okay, Saumya. So now coming to time management, like did you face any difficulty in solving the paper within the time duration that has been given to you?
No ma'am, for that I'll thank Jurisedge only ma'am. इतने सारे हम लोगों ने मॉक्स लगाए थे, इतने सारे लिटरली मैम कि मैम हमें पता था कि मैक्सिमम 1 hour 40 minutes और 45 minutes में पूरा पेपर कर लेते थे. एंड देन वी हैव 15 to 20 minutes टू रीचेक इट कि कोई क्वेश्चन गलत तो नहीं, मिस तो नहीं हो गया. सो I managed to do it within the time only, within the time limit prescribed.
Right. And I think reading a lot of judgments also increases your, in general comprehension speed and, your ability to perceive the passage and everything. So that is very true. Okay, Saumya. So thank you so much for all the wonderful advice that you've given. So what are your future plans? Like what do you intend to do after completing your LLM?
Ma'am, I'll go for practicing only. Earlier, I wanted to do judiciary, but now I have shifted my interest and now I'll go into practicing only.
Right. So which specialization do you intend to take in NLS?
Ma'am, human rights. I would love to do human rights.
That's a very interesting choice. I'm not sure how it will align with your practicing career, but I'm sure it would be a very enriching subject to read at NLS.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Chalo. Thank you, Saumya. Thank you so much. And all the very best for your future. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Have a good day, ma'am.
Yeah, you too.